With that, Ellen Vukovich has a quick update on planning matters. Ellen, there's a major recession. There's no financing available. Developers are going broke. I'm sure there's no development taking place in Sherman Oaks.
Hi, everybody. That's what you call a lie. Let me call the committee chair people up here to speak to you. Bob Anderson, David Rankel, Nancy Khalil, and Tom Jones. Let me just give you a few updates what's going on. We're in a really interesting time because although it looks like nothing much is going on with development, I think that's probably the grandest understatement, because development is what feeds the city's coffers, and with the city about this close to bankruptcy, they're pretty much getting ready to give what's left of our quality of life away in order to encourage development. Now, development by itself is not necessarily bad, but when you don't have a balance between the community's needs, the developer's needs, and the long-term planning objectives, which means not providing for adequate infrastructure and all of the shortcomings that involves over development includes traffic, congestion, traffic, gridlock. Did I say traffic? Anyway, so the point is that there are huge attempts working very quietly behind the scenes to change what's left of our planning laws. So the battle, and it's been one we've been waging for years, to be honest with you, is really just beginning. Every time there's a major change with council offices, that includes a huge learning curve for all of the deputies, and that means that it's up to the communities, besides having to start all over, to really be careful. In the case of Wendy Gruhl's office, it's vacant for 6 months. We already know there's major troubles with Fashion Square. Tom Jones is going to give you an update about that. I also want to say that what hasn't been mentioned, for all of you that live in Council District 2, that new council member is going to be the seated representative for the Planning, Land Use, and Management Committee, which that seat was previously held by Jack Weiss. And if you're familiar with what went on with his last few weeks in that office, I would classify it as an overall abuse of power. So having a new council member seated in Plum representing the San Fernando Valley is a really good thing, but we have to make sure that the candidate that's elected really gets land use, and it can't be developer and billboard company giveaways. Unfortunately, they're very vulnerable to that because those people or those firms can employ full-time lobbyists, and the rest of the lobbyists, which I consider all of you, the community, have other lives, and we have to sandwich in when we can to go fight for our communities. I want to say also that planning fees have been increased tremendously. What used to cost $74 to file an appeal on a land use issue now will cost $500. If you have a building code violation that you want to appeal, let's say some guy's building something next door to you, right, Francine, and it just kind of like takes over your whole property and you're wondering why the side yard requirements weren't upheld. What used to cost a couple $100 to file an appeal will now cost $7,000. So clearly what has happened is, in the city's attempt to recover actual costs, which they're entitled, because we all know pensions have to be paid, that is the practical reality. You cannot escape it no matter what. The bottom line is it will shut out the public process. And that is what is the most terrifying in the quest to find the monies. Objections or silence. So we're working behind the scenes. We'll be working with Councilmember Koretz's office, who did vote to support the planning fee increase, and help to show him why, especially nonprofit organizations like Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association should be exempt, so that we can, on behalf of our communities, go file appeals at a reasonable cost. The other thing I want to point out to you is, I don't know if you've heard that property owners, residential property owners, also known as the city's ATM, are going to receive massive tax hikes in their property bills. As always with bond measures, what you see is not what you get. And there were 4 bond measures to build LA Unified Schools that were voted on and approved by all of us. We're all for schools, one development for the population that apparently is now declining. But we're on the hook still for those bonds. So you can expect, because I'm sure it's going to go through, it was voted on a couple of years ago, basically an assessment per $100,000 of your property values. Stories go from anywhere from $600 to $200 to $300 per $100,000 of your assessed property values. And in Sherman Oaks, that's a very large hit, because as you've probably all noticed, our property values are holding pretty good given the current economic condition. So look if you don't think you don't have a stake in CD2's race because you live in CD5, you're wrong. If you don't think you don't have a stake in what goes on with the neighborhood councils, you're wrong. You have a stake. The fact that you come here to this meeting, it's not about getting the food, it's not about the camaraderie, it's about really taking the time, because all of you have that time, unlike many of the people that really do give a damn, but they've got to raise their children, pay through public education, private schools. So I'm imploring you, please, if ever there's a time where we need people to get involved and active in the community, this is it, because I'm telling you, we're on a sinking ship. We are on a sinking ship. All right, with that happy news, let me just tell you one other story. Not too many people know of this situation, but I had a dream job offer, I have to say it, before the committees come up. I was asked to go work for Carmen Trutanich, which would have been a recognition for all community activism, unlike anything else in the city, but I had to turn it down. Why? Because they required me to fill out a form called Form 700, which all elected officials fill out, that discloses everything from A to Z about your personal financial affairs. In my case, it would have involved my elderly parents. In my case, it would have also involved all my personal and financial holdings on a level that I was not comfortable in the name of public service to disclose. It would have also been posted on the internet, there forever. And my point in telling you all of this, if ever you've wondered why there aren't people like me in government, think of Form 700. Politicians, they make that choice. Appointed officials don't. But unfortunately, we're held to that same standard. So this is one of those things you have to be careful what you wish for. So I wanted to share that sad news with you. Bobby Anderson is going to speak very briefly, as will all the other committee members, because of course Richard's here, because I've used up all their time.
Dave, 1 minute.
Hi, I'm Bob Anderson. I'm the chairman of the Hillside Committee. I've brought it up before. You know, there in the Flatlands, there's a baseline mansionization ordinance. And the Flatlands used to be everything north of Ventura Boulevard for us. They're working on a hillside ordinance, which has to be done by approximately next June. In the meantime, the city is redefining 300,000 homes in Los Angeles from hillside to flatland by using better maps. And it's a pretty good job that they're doing. The one thing they did